Welcome into 4-Point Play, our third episode. Early December now, which means we are in full swing of the NBA regular season. We've had some storylines, and they have been pretty great thus far. It's been a pretty exciting start to the season, anywhere from Derrick Rose injury woes, but now getting back, to Anthony Davis putting up an MVP caliber season, and the Mavericks getting clutch plays down the stretch in 2 games in a row. It's been pretty great. I'm your host, Noah Taborda, alongside CB Garrett. CB, how you doing?
Doing alright. Recovering from now a second concussion in less than a month, so I lost my basketball season. But we're doing good.
Okay. Well, I guess that's... could be worse. Could be. But...
It could. I guess 3 could be worse.
3 is worse than 2. Well, we still have the show. So, let's start with this. The number to call, 224-563-8444. Again, that is 224-563-8444. You can find that in the comment section below if you get here later, or, if you just want to message me, whatever. Facebook info. We don't have a Facebook, but you can still like Infinity Sports Network on Facebook, on Twitter, at Infinity Sports N. That's a capital I, a capital S, and a capital N. I don't think there's many like that out there, so it should be relatively easy to find. And yeah, let's get right into it. And we're going to start with a standings update. We are now, everybody's around 18 to 20 games in. Start with the Eastern Conference, and we'll start in the Atlantic. Toronto 15-4 to start the year, miles ahead of the second place team, Brooklyn, who is 8-9, followed by Boston, New York, and an NBA worst Philadelphia 76ers are 1-17. In the Central, the Bulls still lead despite a rocky start to the year at 12-7. Cleveland at 9-7, Milwaukee is surprising 10-10, Indiana, and then Detroit with a second worst record in the East. Then in the Southeast, we have Washington and Atlanta. Just Atlanta breathing down Washington's neck right now. We got Miami, Orlando, and then, of course, in last, it seems like the Bobcats will never get better. 4-15 to start the year. Over to the Western Conference, Portland in the driver's seat in the Northwest, followed by Denver and Oklahoma City. Just getting KD back. We'll see how they do right now in third, Utah, and then Minnesota. In the Pacific, with an NBA best 15-2, the Golden State Warriors, followed by the LA Clippers, Phoenix, Sacramento, and then the other LA team at a horrible 5-14. In the Southwest, the last division, Memphis 15-3, followed by Houston 14-4, Dallas 15-5, San Antonio 13-5, and New Orleans 8-8. So a really, really tough division. Now over to the scoreboard. I believe we do not have any games underway, though Cavaliers are visiting the Knicks, and they will tip off in just around 10 minutes. Then later tonight we have the Pacers in Portland, and of course the Pelicans traveling to the Warriors. Some good games on this slate today. And speaking of Golden State, we're going to throw it over to CB now for the first topic of the day.
Alright, and the first question, is Golden State the best team in the Western Conference?
Ooh. That's a tough question. I mean, the thing is, we're so early on, and at the end of the day, I think the last 20 games will decide it. You can already see that it's already starting to take place. You've got 7 teams that are going to compete night in and night out for that top spot. You could see Golden State hit a slump, they lose 2 in a row, and suddenly they're sitting at 4th. You don't have that in the Eastern Conference that you do right now, probably because it's so tight, but the Western Conference will be like that. You hit a slump and you drop. Golden State's still a relatively young team. Right now, yeah, they're playing like the best team in the Western Conference, but they're going to hit stretches like right now where they're going to have to play teams like New Orleans, and then Minnesota have to play Houston next week, and Dallas, they get a little road trip there with Dallas, New Orleans, and Memphis. Those are some tough games in a row. They still have yet to overcome that. They haven't even hit the point where they play, I believe. Let's see here. It's 10 road games out of 11, with 1 game home to San Antonio. It's just absolutely crazy. So while they are playing like the best team right now, at the end of the day, I just don't know if they can maintain it in such a cutthroat Western Conference.
And so would you say they're the best team in the NBA right now?
Right now, probably. They're playing like the best team right now. I can't deny the 15-2 record in the way they have been playing.
Okay, see, I would have to agree that right now they're probably the best team in the NBA. First off, again, like you said, they do have the best record. And I just think right now they're playing really well. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry are playing out of their minds. They aren't short really anywhere. They have David Lee as well, who's pretty much a double-double machine. And right now, I would say they are. But again, there's going to be a lot of teams who are going to start to play better. The LA Clippers haven't played as well as we thought they would. I mean, they're still 13-5, but again, they are sitting at 7th in the West. So tough it is. I think we'll see San Antonio more towards the end of the year, and especially in the playoffs, be a better team than Golden State. I think Houston is probably a better team than Golden State. And I think sitting outside the playoffs, Oklahoma City down the road will be a better team than Golden State. I think right now they're playing to their fullest potential, and they haven't gone through some of the struggles that some of the other teams have had with injuries. And I just think that for now, again, they probably are the best team. But in the end, I don't think they might end up with the 1 seed. I see them finishing top 3, but I don't think they're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. I think they'll be a first or second round exit. Yeah,
I mean, they have been for a couple of years now. Can't seem to get over the hump at the end of the day. 15-2, looking good though right now. One of the key things for them has been a much improved defense, allowing under 100 points a game, something that is just completely unusual for a Golden State team. And you wouldn't have thought that with a guy like Steve Kerr coming in, who was more of an offensive player, but they have improved defensively, especially in terms of their offensive potential. Guys like Curry and Klay Thompson, not known for their defense, but playing significantly better than I think most people expected. You look at a guy like Curry right now, who is getting tons of steals. Surprised, though, is Paul Millsap, power forward, leads the steals category right now. Well, that brings us to the end of Golden State. And we're going to go to the exact opposite side of the standings right now, from number 1 to number 30. The Philadelphia 76ers won their first game yesterday, despite starting off the game by almost going the wrong way. Both the Warriors and the 76ers started off going the wrong way. The game had to be restarted, but they would pick up a win, finally 85-77, over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Michael Carter-Williams, 20 points. You got 12 from Luke, Richard, and Bahamute. But you knew that if they were going to win, it would be low scoring, and it was. And it was a mess. 18 turnovers for both teams. Both teams shot under 40% from the field and barely over 20% from 3 were the Sixers. 64% from the line, and they still won. A horrible win, but a win nonetheless, and they'll be thankful for that. However, they are on pace for one of the worst records, the worst. They are on pace for 5 wins, which would put them at an unbelievably bad record. Of course, we had Charlotte go 7-59, but not a full season. However, the 76ers looked like they could do significantly worse. On pace, of course, with 5 wins, put them at 5-67. CB, obviously it's early in the year, but will they have the worst record in the history of the NBA come April?
I don't know if they will have less wins than Charlotte did that year, obviously being a shortened season, but I think they will end up with the worst record in the 82-game season. You just don't look and see very much talent there, other than Nerlens Noel. I just think that team just doesn't have a lot around that they can build for. I mean, Michael Carter-Williams is a good point guard, but then you look at players who are playing like Henry Sims, and there's just not a lot there for them. It's going to be tough for them to win a lot of games. They just don't have a lot. And I look at the fact that there's going to be a lot of teams who could beat them on bad nights, even when the Sixers have one of the better games. I don't see them reaching double-digit wins at all. This team just doesn't have a lot of talent, and they're probably going to even end up trading more players to the trading deadline who can be role players for other teams if they get rid of the contract and enter even more of a rebuilding mode. As the only players in that roster who really seem to fit in their future are Carter Williams Embiid and Noel. So I don't see them really doing that much in terms of winning this year. They have no incentive to win. I mean, no matter how much winning they do, they're not going to be relevant in the even in the Eastern Conference this year. So I say that they are probably going to end up with the worst 82-game regular season of all time, and I think it's not going to be by 2 goals of a margin. I bet they end up with somewhere in the range of 8 to 9 wins this year.
Yeah, it looks like they could be really bad. A guy who could be moving around the trade deadline, Jason Richardson, currently making around $6.6 million, the most on their payroll. I mean, you look at the team. The fact they're starting Mbamute just proves that they are not really in a place to compete. Robert Covington is just not a guy you want to come off the bench. Shved, you got KJ McDaniels has played well. Drew Gordon, Brandon Davies, Jakar Sampson. That's just not a team that's going to compete in any way whatsoever. And you know what? I think it's going to be tough, though, however, to reach that mark. I mean, I think it's actually, you got to try to be that bad, but we could see them slip hard right now. They go Oklahoma City tomorrow. They get 3 games in a row away from home before playing Memphis and Boston, followed by Charlotte. Then they get a really tough road stretch where they're going Orlando, Miami, Portland, Utah, Golden State, Phoenix, and Los Angeles before coming back to play Cleveland. They're going to have to pick up wins, and it's going to be tough to find teams that they can really beat right now. They just don't have that talent on their roster to beat lots of teams, but it's so difficult. We've had so many years where we think a team is going to be the worst in the history of the NBA, and then they win 5-6 games late on in the season when teams start resting people, and they don't get it. So I'm going to say no for right now, but it could very well happen. I mean, this is probably one of the worst rosters I have seen, one of the least talented rosters that I've seen in a while. Well, on to the next topic. We going over to CB and heading up north to Canada.
Well, even though they have lost DeMar DeRozan for a little while, I'm not quite sure how long that'll be, for anywhere from a month to 3 months. Toronto is still hot and sitting currently at 15-4. How much better will they get, especially when DeMar DeRozan returns?
It could be a lot better. But the thing is, it's not about, for me, where or how good they are when come playoff time. It's about the teams around them. How good will Washington be? How good will Chicago be? How good will Cleveland be? Because Toronto only has a certain limitation on where their talent can bring them. You look at the roster. They've got talent. Kyle Lowry, DeRozan. They've got Terrence Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, and Amir Johnson, but I just don't see it on the second line. Lou Williams is solid backup. Vasquez okay. James Johnson okay. Chuck Hayes okay. And Patrick Patterson okay as well. You saw it in the game against the Bulls, and this was a Bulls team that hadn't really reached their full potential yet. Had Derrick Rose been in there, it could have been a completely different game. Had they been healthy, had they known how to play together, it would have been completely different. Toronto isn't ready to compete with the best of the best. They could end up with the best record in the East, but come playoff time, when the Cavaliers and the Bulls are playing at full cylinders, they're not going to be able to beat that kind of team. I mean, they have slumped of late. They lost to Los Angeles and Dallas, and they barely avoided a loss against Sacramento. They get the game against Cleveland on Friday, and then a game against Cleveland on Tuesday. Both games that could very well lose. I just want to see how this team progresses and how this team develops, but at the end of the day, I don't think they have the talent nor the coaching to go up against a guy like Tom Thibodeau and a team as deep as the Bulls. I've got to say that their limitation is probably a second-round exit for me. Barring the fact they get to avoid the Bulls and the Cavaliers, I just don't see them getting much farther than that.
Yeah, I think they actually can beat the Cavs. I think either the Wizards or the Raptors have the ability to beat the Cavs. I don't think this is going to be consistent Cavs team this year. I think we're going to see flashes where you see the big three of Love, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron combined for 81, 82 points a night, and then you get whatever you get from the bench, and you probably get enough to win. But then you're going to see the nights where they struggle